Hi guys, Yuki here, back with Seduce Me 2, the Demon War, alternate routes, part 16. We're starting off with Matthew now. Yeah, we're almost done. I know it's been a while since I've actually uploaded anything, but I don't know, I guess I've been like before, just been busy. Hopefully once we finish this I can find something new. Finally, certain things are going to be set in motion, so hopefully sometime in the next few weeks I should be able to do the Q&A thing. And yeah, that's exciting. So shake it off. What was I thinking? This couldn't have been a real thing. I must have been imagining something or letting stress get to me. I held my head and sighed, shaking it gently. It's nothing, it's just...
Hey.
Matthew stood from his seat and walked over, gently wrapping his arms around me. I instinctively leaned into his embrace, but looked up at Matthew's face in confusion.
You know, you can tell me anything, right?
I know, I'm just stressed out, that's all. He wasn't convinced. I could see his doubt in his eyes. However, he didn't say anything else and gently kissed my forehead.
Alright, if you're sure.
I placed my forehead on his shoulder. I didn't really want to bother him with whatever was wrong with me. This wasn't normal, yes, but if he couldn't hear it, I was better off figuring it out myself. Matthew gently released me and gave me one of his goofy smiles.
Alright, well, I think that's enough work for today. Let's save the rest for tomorrow, okay?
I nodded. Today had been pretty stressful, so rest would definitely be good. Matthew led me back up to our room and got ready for bed. I, however, watched as Matthew absently ruffled his hair. Despite his kid-like demeanor, he was still a man and he was one I was going to marry. What was even better about our love was that we both loved every part of each other. I couldn't stop gushing over his eyes, his fluffy hair, his kisses. He drove me crazy as he made me smile every single day I spent with him. It didn't help that he was also sexy underneath all the baggy clothes he wore. No one was privileged enough to see him bare, and I was a lucky woman given that permission. A simple ruffle of his hair was enough to catch my attention, and I stared at him. I really loved him. And we're just gonna skip. Sleep? I shook my head. I truly wasn't in the mood to do anything but sleep tonight. My body definitely agreed. Yawning, I began to strip and got into my pajamas. Matthew did the same and turned to me with a smile.
Well, ready to sleep?
I couldn't help but giggle and nod. Matthew was just so darn cute sometimes. He grinned at me before jumping into bed and getting comfy, and I did the same. I, however, cuddled up to Matthew's chest, wanting him to hold me as we slept. He chuckled softly before wrapping his arms around me and holding me to his body. With a kiss on my head, Matthew bid me good night as I let sleep overtake my mind. The darkness was meant to be peaceful. Sleep was meant to be relaxing. However, my mind began to wander to what had happened earlier that evening. Hearing that voice made me worried. Something was off. Something was going on, and I was the only one who could sense it. Why, though? I let the darkness seep into my mind a little longer, unsure of what to think of. What the? I opened my eyes and found myself no longer in my bed, but on a stone-cold floor, staring at a high marble ceiling. Despite feeling foreign textures beneath my skin, I vaguely knew where I was. I was in the main hall of the Demon Lord's castle. I remembered the sight from the vision the boys gave me when Diana first appeared. Why was I here, though? Where? My instincts forced me to turn to the sound as I saw someone I did not expect. Diana? Held in the air was Diana, hanging from 4 long lines of chains that were attached to her wrists and ankles. She was spread out like a star, and the chains were pulling her body in different directions, seemingly ready to rip her in half. My mind couldn't fathom why she was in this illusion, if this was one. She looked so different, but I could tell it was her. Why was she in chains, though?
Release me! Oh, I will.
Matthew's voice reverberated with a cold demonic resonance, and it drew my eyes towards him in shock. There he was, sitting on the throne, practically lounging on it. He was still in his in human form, but his eyes were glowing in a naturally gold color. What was even more odd was that he was smirking at Diana. I had never seen him smirk like that, like he was enjoying seeing someone's pain.
I'll kill you once I'm bored of this game. Your struggle is just so much fun to watch.
You think this is funny, brat?
Matthew glared at the chains as the chains pulled harder on Diana's limbs. I flinched from the sound in her body stretching, almost hearing the sound of bones cracking. Diana, however, sneered at Matthew in reply.
Do you really think calling me a brat is going to help you?
Well, that's what you are. A brat who abuses his toys until they break.
I could only stare at the two, completely confused by what I was witnessing. I tried to speak out, but suddenly my voice disappeared before any sound could be formed in my throat. Gripping my neck, I looked down, trying to figure out why I couldn't speak. There was some sort of vice pressed through my vocal cords, not allowing me to mutter not even a single word. Its weight made me almost choke. However, I looked back up as Matthew gave a sickly, evil chuckle.
That's right. I like to play with my toys until they're of no use to me. That's how toys work.
Matthew stood up slowly from the throne, and his lips curled into a devilish smile as his tongue ran along his upper lip.
And when I'm done with them, I destroy them.
And what of the human? Is she just another toy?
I looked at Diana, seeing her move her head to look at me before turning back to Matthew in realization. I was physically there. I wasn't just watching the event, I was a part of it. Matthew looked back at me and his face shifted into an innocent smile. My heart desperately clung to the possibility that he wasn't as evil as he was presenting himself to be. His smile pulled at my heartstrings, giving me hope that he was just playing some sick joke.
She's not just a toy.
My heart dropped in my chest. Matthew tilted his head cutely, giving me a disgusting feeling of adoration and fear from the sight. Yet had I ever imagined feeling this whole while looking at the one I loved, yet here I was.
She's my favorite toy. I can't break the toy that I have the most fun with. Especially when that toy gives me so much energy.
Like a predator, Matthew began to walk towards me, pressing underneath Diana's hanging form. I couldn't move as he knelt down and kept his hand around my chin.
I'll keep you with me forever and ever.
Fear seared my nerves. I did not want to be near this man. This wasn't Matthew. It couldn't be. There was no way. As he stood up, I felt tears run down my face. If this was a nightmare, I wanted to wake up. Please. Matthew's hand pointed at the throne and glided through the air back to me. The sound of chains echoed through the room, forcing me to follow it and see a chain flying at me. I tried to scream as it leapt towards my throat. From thin air, a shackle collar formed around my neck, connecting to the chain as it reached me, and I was pulled forward roughly through the air before landing beside the throne with a painful thud.
No!
Diana screamed as a large cage suddenly formed around my body, making me its prisoner. I scrambled to my knees and gripped the bars surrounding me, now frightened beyond compare. Matthew let out a terrifying laugh, sending more waves of fright through my body. This wasn't happening.
This world is mine. No one can stand in my way anymore. Not James, not the Demon Lord, and not you, Diana!
Smirking widely, Matthew looked at Diana, raising his arms across his body.
And I've grown tired of you.
Before Matthew could move, my fear and anger quickly bubbled in my chest, one word pushing past the blockage of my throat. Stop. As my voice ripped through the air, everything went black. My body, however, sat up in bed in shock from what I had seen. My scream reverberated through the room as I let it sink in that I was awake and all of this had just been a nightmare. Despite it all feeling real, I was no longer in a cage. I wasn't in a room with Diana being ripped apart. I was...
Ah! What?
I shot my head to the side to see Matthew in bed with me, sitting up beside me and rubbing his head. A heavy tiredness weighed down the eyelids over his frightened eyes, but his mind suddenly began to seize in fear just from looking at him. My mind shouted that it was just a simple nightmare, but my body couldn't help but remember that Matthew had done to me in that dream. It may have been fake, but I couldn't stop the fright from washing over my nerves. Tears formed in my eyes as I stared at Matthew. I wanted to know that everything was fine and that I really was more than just a toy for him, but my voice wouldn't let me speak without bawling. Matthew quickly rubbed his eyes and stared at me, his concern obviously deepening to see me in tears. He slowly raised his hands to embrace me, but I flinched away, causing him to freeze in place.
Whoa! It's okay. It's alright. It's just me.
Matthew's voice tried to warm over my fear, but my feelings were still conflicted despite my brain knowing better. He continued to stare at me, waiting for me to relax. I could only meet his gaze warily with both fear and sadness.
Hey, I'm gonna hug you, okay? That's all.
My heart wanted to believe him. I had to. He couldn't have been as sick as my nightmare had depicted him. I nodded, and Matthew slowly began to wrap his arms around me, hugging me to his chest.
There we go. It's okay.
I began to melt in Matthew's arms, finally feeling the fear disappear from my body. I pressed my face to his shoulder, shaking in remorse as the panic drained away. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And then everybody gets cuddly, but we've already been through this. Let's just go to the bathroom. Or actually, let's go to the library. Looking around the library, Simon was nowhere in sight. I grumbled to myself. Where the hell can that thing be? I said before leaving the library, walking towards another room. Office. Oops. Office. Looking around the room, Simon was nowhere in sight. I grumbled to myself. Looking for just bathroom. I closed my eyes. This was a mistake. This had to be a dream. I was dreaming, and I needed to wake up immediately so that I could find the rings and get married. I think I've said this before, but why would you have the rings? Wouldn't, whoever is the ring bearers have them and not them? I don't know. I don't know anything about weddings. Don't ask me anything. Please let this be a dream. As I opened my eyes, I locked my eyes onto the collar that was still around my neck. My mind began to launch into a frenzy. Why was it there? At that moment, a word came up in my mind. I wasn't sure how it got there or why I thought of the word, but it appeared in my thoughts as if it was exactly what I was thinking about. My fingers began to tingle slightly as it resonated in my body. As I opened my mouth and let it fly free from my tongue, I felt my body slightly warm in reply. Salvo. The color, somehow responding to what I had said, began to quiver around my neck before fading into black mist and disappearing into the air. I instinctively sighed in relief. It was off, thank God. I rubbed my neck gratefully, feeling only my skin and silently appreciating the sensation of my fingers running over my bare neck.
I knew it! I knew it! That girl has demon magic!
And we skipped through this too. I watched as the boys and the girls finally planted themselves on the ground before looking around. However, Matthew instantly bolted for me, causing Diana to jump away in surprise.
Whoa!
Matthew wrapped his arms around me, and I instinctively tensed up from being charged at before taking innocent and physical form. He was here. I wasn't dreaming. He really came for me, and he was here holding me.
Are you okay? Are you hurt?
I'm fine. I almost couldn't believe it, but I wrapped my arms around Matthew's torso, pulling him tighter to me as I took in one more whiff of his scent. However, before I could melt into his arms in relief at his presence, he was forcefully dragged backwards.
Hold it! Hold it! Hold it!
Whoa!
Huh? I watched as the fairy figure gripped Matthew's hoodie and roughly pulled him away from me with an angered face. Wait, hold on!
Matthew!
Before anyone could react, Matthew spun around and swiped at the fairy. They squeaked and released him, floating higher into the air.
Hands off!
You hands off!
I quickly rushed over and held Matthew's hand, wanting to bring his attention away from the fairy and back to me. Matthew. I pulled towards me, causing him to gasp and look over at me before I wrapped my arms around him and hugged him close. It's okay, he's with me. Or he's with me. What's the word? Tone is everything. I looked at the fairies, seeing them puff out their cheeks in reaction to my actions and words. Matthew, however, wrapped his arms around me again and hugged me tightly. Unfortunately, Matthew and I couldn't stay close for long. The fairy shouting caused us to pull apart to look at them.
He has the same aura as the Demon Lord!
Rubbing her head and glaring at the fairy, Diana stepped up, crossing her arms and rubbing her temple.
Well, he is the son of the Demon Lord.
That's not what I meant! I'm saying...
Come on, let's get you home.
Matthew gently took my hand and tugged me towards his brothers. However, this time Diana stepped in front of Matthew.
I'm afraid she can't leave.
And why not?
She's been cursed. She can't leave this plane without dying. But if you wish to kill your bride to bring her back to the demon world, then be my guest.
Matthew glared at Diana and stepped in front of me protectively.
Why should I believe you?
It's true, Matthew. The Demon Lord cursed me, so I can't leave. I placed my hand on Matthew's shoulder, causing him to turn his head and look at me in surprise. His expression morphed from anger to sudden fear.
What? You can't be serious.
We are, but don't worry. We plan to kill the one who cursed her soon enough.
When?
1 week's time.
1 week? What?
Where is this number coming from, Succubus?
Trap. That's not fair, Diana. Skippy.
I shall, my lady.
I will take you to some rooms you may rest in.
The entire experience was not something I expected to go through, especially since it was now interfering with my wedding. I was trapped in the demon world under a curse I couldn't break without the demon lord being killed, and I was expected to wait. The entire journey to my room became one filled with mild anger within me. At least Matthew was here to help me through this, but I still couldn't help but let the situation sink underneath my skin. This wasn't fair at all. I knew Matthew could sense my anger as he lightly squeezed my hand, which was gently cupped at his as he walked beside me.
Hey, what's wrong?
I'll calm down. I knew I wasn't going to get anywhere being mad, and I didn't want to let him know how frustrated I was. There was nothing we could do anyway until the battle was over, so I had to suck it up and deal with it. I sighed and shook my head. Nothing's wrong, sorry. Matthew frowned a bit before bringing up one of my hands and kissing it.
Alright, well, if anything is wrong, just let me know, okay?
I nodded, happy to know that he was open and ready to support me. Matthew and I continued to walk down the halls of the castle until we arrived at one of the same ambassador room I had slept in before. I guessed that the room was mine for now. Stepping in, Matthew looked around in slight awe.
Whoa. Awesome digs.
Ew, I keep doing that.
Yeah, that's right. You were gone from the human world for about 5 hours.
5 hours? I was astonished. The difference between the demon world and the human world was prominent and a little disorienting. Didn't that mean that time moved faster here? I was getting confused, holding my head to try and unscramble my thoughts as they collided. Matthew, however, rushed over to me and sat down next to me, hip to hip.
Hey, don't worry about it, okay? We found you, so that's all that matters.
I could only nod before looking at the ground. It was a lot to take in, but at least I wasn't really missing for a day in the human world, for I was going to be here for a week, so in accordance with the time difference, I would be missing for more than a day. How was everyone at home going to react? I could only hope that something was used as cover to delay the wedding or the like. I looked up to Matthew, now a bit concerned.
Huh? What is it?
What happened while I was missing? Matthew frowned a bit and rubbed his neck, running his hand through his fluffy hair as he spoke, staring at his knees.
Well, when you didn't come with the rings, we got kinda worried and tried to call you. When you didn't pick up, we kinda panicked, but Irene and Iridessa decided to rush over to the house to see what had happened. They came back, saying you were gone. We pretty much scrambled to use our magic to wipe everyone's memories, reschedule everything, and use the time to find out what happened.
Matthew pressed his lips together, most likely remembering what he felt during my absence. I felt bad, but there was nothing I could have done to stop it. Matthew shook his head and continued.
I guess we have to thank Simon for finding you. Without him, we wouldn't have figured out what happened.
Simon? Matthew nodded before stuffing his hand in his pocket and pulling out the infuriating stuffed animal. Simon blinked a couple of times before looking up at me and giggling like he usually did. Simon! Simon jumped from Matthew's hand into my arms and crawled up to my shoulder, becoming immobile like a doll once he settled between my neck and shoulder. I gave his head a little pat before looking back to Matthew. Well, he was the one that hid the rings. I had to find him.
I know, but after you were taken, he helped us pinpoint where you were, and bam! Here we are.
Matthew chuckled a bit as he ruffled some of Simon's fur.
I guess this little fur ball was useful after all.
Bites his finger. I could only smile before leaning over to kiss Matthew's cheek, making him gasp slightly.
Huh?
At least you found me. Soon we will be able to go home and get married like we planned. It gave me a little hope to get to let the thought sink in. Despite the terrible situation we were in, we would soon be able to go home. I was positive we would be in this war and everything would work out just fine in the end. Matthew seemed to agree, nodding as well with a smile.
Yeah. We'll go home soon.
Matthew wrapped his arms around me and nuzzled the side of my head, making me softly giggle. My body felt relieved to have him near me, causing me to wrap my own arms around him. My heart was jumping with joy regardless of the situation we were in. Simon took on the cue to hop off my shoulder and quickly skittered across the floor and up the fireplace mantel, resting on it with the decor that sat upon it. Matthew, however, soon released me and fell back onto the bed, feeling its softness.
Man, it's been so long since I felt a demon bed.
This was another dream. I could tell that Matthew was going to be the villain once again. My mind began to panic as I scrambled up to my hands and knees, looking around at the predicament I was in. I was in a large steel cage. My chain hung between the bars of the hands of the imp guard, guarding my cell. I had no neighbors, nor did I hear anyone else in the space with me. This was definitely a dream, and I needed to wake up before Matthew came around. Who knew what he would do with me? This was a dream, after all. I looked around the room, slowing my breaths and trying to think logically. What could I do? The first thing to do was for someone about the chain around my neck. Then I could try and break the door down somehow and be free. Seemed like a good idea. I quickly grabbed the chain again and swiveled on the ground to be on my bottom, locking my feet against the door and pulling the chain back. I managed to get some purchase, and luckily the imp couldn't manage to pull me forward with my struggle. A large bolt of red lightning suddenly traveled down the chain and shocked the collar around my neck, causing me to release a soundless scream. My body became electrocuted in red light and energy, sending waves of pain through every part of me. As I finally stopped, I let out a gasp and fell back on the ground, shaking from the aftermath. My body felt entirely jittery, and looks of pain brushed over my nerves from the shock. What the hell? I could barely look over at the imp from the pain I was feeling, seeing him smirk at what he had done. However, as soon as I saw the grin appear on its ugly lips, a foot jammed into the side of the imp's head, causing it to buckle over. Huh?
You fucking pig fawn! What did you do?
My eyes glanced over at Matthew in his demon form, glaring daggers at the fallen imp with his foot jammed onto his cheek. As he looked at me, he still angered with a snarl across his expression. I gasped, seeing the familiar cold gold color over his eyes. The evil Matthew had returned. Gingerly, Matthew took up my chain and pulled me to the door, leaning in and keeping the chain beneath his head so he could bring his head as close to me as he could without me being pulled against the bars of the door. Staring into his eyes, I was surprised to feel calm and almost hopeful that maybe this was a different Matthew, one who wouldn't be cruel and full of ill intent. Then again, he kept me in the cell and didn't release me, so that was a sign that I was wrong. Despite this, he spoke calmly and almost comfortingly.
Did he hurt you?
Of course, I nodded. Whatever electrocution the imp had done made me feel like I was dying for a split moment. Matthew, in response to my reply, glared at the imp with a deadly pair of eyes, causing the victim in question to sink back against the wall.
I order you not to hurt her. If she's hurt, then she can't give me proper energy, and I won't be able to rule this world properly. Do you know how much of a problem that would be?
Imp opened his mouth in protest, but as soon as he did, Matthew formed a knife in the air and chucked it in its open mouth. A splash of blood erupting from behind the imp's head as the knife embedded itself in the back of his throat. With a garbled whimper, the imp slowly collapsed to the ground, dying at last. I, however, could only watch in horrified with my hands over my mouth. What was going on? Matthew turned back to me and pulled my chain slightly, causing me to look back at him with fearful eyes.
There! Now he won't hurt you anymore.
Why are you doing this? Let me go. Matthew's face slowly shifted to a cold, sadistic glare.
I would. But how will I know that you won't run away from me?
I began to panic. I wanted to be free. I wanted to run, but Matthew here wasn't going to let me go, and I didn't want to stay in the cell any longer, despite every fiber in my body wanting me to awaken. I couldn't. I promise I won't run. I had to plead with him. If I was so important to him, then he cared enough about me to listen. Matthew, however, chuckled.
Promises don't mean anything here. The last promise made to me was that Pigfawn's word that he wouldn't hurt you. And well, you saw how that turned out.
But, Matthew,
Do not call me that!
Oh. His voice rang in my ears, violently pounding against my eardrums and causing me to wince violently. I kept my hands over my ears, shutting my eyes from the pain before feeling Matthew draw back, sliding his hand to the end of my chain.
I'm not in the mood to take your energy now. I'll come back another time.
With a flash of blue energy, the chain in his hand vanished and reappeared above me, giving me enough slack to let me lie down, but only if I was directly underneath it. I grimaced and pulled at the chain, wanting to still be free from it, but only heard the chuckle of Matthew's cruel sadism as he turned and began to walk away.
You better be prepared when I get back. I've got a world to rule after all. Can't spend all my time making sure you're ready.
A violent quake ran through my body and began to struggle harder, making him laugh as he left the hall out of my sight. And then screaming on the go. I shut my eyes tightly, pulling and tugging as much as I could, despite it being to no avail. I screamed once again, this time breaking the illusion around me and waking up at last.
Whoa! Oh. Huh? Are you okay? Or did you have another nightmare? I'm sorry. Do you want a hug?
Oh, no. The nightmare was still too fresh. The image of the cruel, heartless demon king Matthew was too prominent in my mind, and to be hugged by the real Matthew felt off to me. Matthew nodded and sat back, closing his eyes and most likely trying to heal his bruises with his energy. As a set of knocks appeared at our door, however, Matthew and I shot our heads in the direction of the sound.
Oi! Time to wake up! We got grub!
Ugh, can you not call it that?
Ah!
Is everything alright in there?
We're fine! We're fine.
Simon, cackling at Matthew's mistake, scrambled back up onto the fireplace and became a doll once more as I cleared my throat. Men. And eating food. Don't ask about it. I didn't want to make things awkward, especially if he didn't want it to have any stories to share. Damien, however, looked up at Matthew.
Matthew had a couple of fights too, if I remember right.
I looked over at Matthew, seeing him jolt his head up to stare at Damien in shock with a piece of jerky in his mouth.
No, don't.
Sam scoffed and spit into the fireplace. That's gross, making us all look over at him.
What a crock of bullshit, Pipsqueak.
Bullshit? What the hell is that supposed to mean?
Don't fucking play dumb with me. I remember you massacring an entire gang of Vince because they looked at your mom funny. I was the one who had to clean that shit up.
I suddenly went wide-eyed at Matthew, who in turn stared right back at me with a fearful frown on his face. He got into fights here? I guess it was expected of a demon to at least get into one fight in their life, but Matthew at a massacre?
No, it wasn't like that. It wasn't me!
Like hell it wasn't.
Dude, shut up!
Make me!
I will!
Sam and Matthew jumped out of their seats and marched at each other, slamming their foreheads together and snarling, fire burning in each of their eyes. I quickly rushed up and pulled Matthew's arms, trying to bring him back to the bed. Matthew, calm down!
Sam, knock it off!
Despite Carrie also pulling Sam's arm, neither of us could pull our incubus away from the other as they battled each other with their eyes. The air in the room became full of tense energy until suddenly both of the boys were swatted over the head. Thanks, James!
Fuck!
Ow!
Both of you! That's enough!
I looked up to see James holding his fist that he used to sock his brothers with, and a glare painted over his face. Matthew and Sam looked at their eldest brother, both irritated at being hit but silent enough to know not to talk back. A moment passed before Sam stood up straight and shook his head, finally allowing Carrie to pull him back to a spot where they could sit.
Whatever.
Matthew, on the other hand, straightened up and continued to glare at James almost in defiance. Something sparked in his eyes, something that made me worried, so I pulled his arm back, trying to catch his attention. Hey, come on. Matthew finally looked at me, slowly receding back into his normal gaze, before nodding and rubbing his head over the newly formed bruise while sitting down beside me.
Well, this is an interesting family reunion.
Exhausted and tired, I marched into my room and opened the door, surprised to see Matthew already there. Huh? Matthew? However, what was odd about him being in the room was not that he was there before me, but that he was staring at the fire, eyes glazed over in an almost pale blue tint. Something was going on. I walked over and placed my hand on Matthew's shoulder, slowly walking around him to look directly into his eyes. It was almost creepy to see, but he seemed almost dead. Matthew. I gently shook his head, trying to snap him out of whatever trance he was under, but gasped as I spotted a blue ring around his neck. As I did, the air around me became colder and a little darker. What was going on? Panicked, I looked around, trying to pin down what was causing this. Matthew's voice brought me back to him, hearing his voice drool out of his mouth like an emotionless doll. I gripped Matthew's shoulders tightly and shook him again. You know what? I didn't think about it, but that's pretty interesting take on his, because of toys and dolls, and he's his mom's doll. It's just starting to connect now. It's just like, I don't really have anything like mind breaking or anything about what's going on. It's like, I am not philosophical. I'm just playing a game and making my own assumptions. Matthew! Still nothing. Smack him. I didn't want to do it, but I had to snap Matthew out of whatever stupor he was under. I bit my lip and shut my eyes. Sorry, Matthew. With a breath, I raised my hand and smacked him across the face, causing him to gasp and the pale blue in his eyes to fade back to normal.
Ugh, hey! Ow!
I'm sorry. Matthew gripped his cheek and stared at the ground before looking up at me in shock, as if he had been stirred awake. Matthew, are you alright? You were spacing out like no tomorrow. Remembering the dull tint in his eyes almost creeped me out. The way his voice came out of his mouth only added to the creep factor of the situation. I wasn't sure what got a hold of him, but I broke him out of it at least. Matthew rubbed his cheek and stared at me like I had suddenly grown 3 heads. Why? I furrowed my eyebrows as he replied.
Yeah, I'm fine. I was just looking at the fire. It's pretty warm.
Every part of me didn't believe him. Then again, everything was wrong, and maybe Matthew was becoming a victim of it. I frowned and kept his cheek, making him lean into it slightly. Are you sure? You looked like you were possessed. Matthew furrowed his eyebrows, unsure what I meant. Did he really not remember? I now became concerned, desperate to know answers. Why was he acting so strangely? Matthew took my hands in his and held them tight, gently, rubbing his thumbs over the tops of my hands.
Hey, is everything alright?
I almost glared. This is what I had asked him. I wasn't crazy. I knew that something was off, and I had to try and figure out what. I squeezed Matthew's hands instead. Matthew, I'm serious. You were staring at the fire, and your eyes just looked glazed and stuff. Pressing his lips together, he looked down, trying to discern what I meant, as if he didn't want to do what I had suggested he did. I pulled my hands, now worried. I didn't want him to assume I was making things up. You believe me, right? Matthew stared into my eyes, reading them as he nodded.
I do. I do. I don't know how to respond. I mean, I don't remember being in a trance.
As he said that, however, he suddenly curled over and held his head, hissing in pain. Matthew? Quickly, Matthew collapsed onto his knees and gripped his head, digging his fingers into his hair as I followed him down. Now I knew for sure something was definitely wrong. I cupped Matthew's face, trying to read his expression, trying to figure out what was wrong with him just from sight. A moment passed before Matthew let out a gasp of breath, opening his eyes wide and panting for some fresh air to enter his lungs. His eyes painted in his fear, as if he had encountered a nightmare within the moment that passed. Matthew, what happened? Matthew wouldn't speak, furrowing his eyebrows and shaking his head.
I heard someone calling to me.
Calling to you? For a moment, I believed it to be his mother. Maybe he was just hearing what I heard in the human world, but why didn't I hear it anymore? It made no sense. Matthew shook his head and gritted his teeth.
It sounded like my mother. But how could she...
So this is kind of off topic, but now that I hear, like, Matthew's voice again, like, it reminds me of, like, I don't remember the name of this game, but it was like he sounds like the main person who like in the game, but I don't remember what it was called. I remember there's a flashlight, and he had like this like kind of like also sort of a hoodie, but it was like a light blue. I think it's been a long time, and I know there was like a guy named Fro, I think, and then there was that. He just met a lot of people along the way, and there was like, what was it called? Was it Fragile Dreams? Maybe, but I don't know for sure. Let me look it up very quick. Yeah, it was Fragile Dreams. He sounds like, what's the boy's name? I'll look it up. It's loading. I want to say the main character's name was like Shiro or something, but I don't think that's what it was. Oh, Seto. He sounds like Seto. Sorry about that weird off-topic thing, but that was just something that, for some reason, I just thought of right now. I took Matthew's hands and held them to my chest, catching his attention. Hey, let's go ask the others about this. It's not too late to go talk to them. I can't even speak today. Matthew suddenly shook his head and took his hands from mine, grasping my shoulders.
It's alright, really. I don't need their help. We can figure this out on our own.
Matthew... I had a really bad feeling about the situation. Matthew was getting put in trances, then getting headaches and hearing his mother's voice. Why was he so reluctant to get the help of his brothers? And sis? This was too mysterious and dangerous. We needed the help. Matthew, we need to...
Please, just trust me.
Matthew stared deep into my eyes, pleading silently for me to trust him. I bit my lip, still not completely sure that this was the right choice. As I slowly let out a whine of complaint, Matthew gripped harder on my shoulders, not enough to hurt me, but enough to emphasize his point.
Please.
Matthew seemed adamant. I swallowed my nerves and nodded slowly, taking in a breath and letting out a sigh. Matthew leaned forward and kissed my forehead, thankful that I was willing to trust him. However, trust wasn't the issue. I trusted Matthew very much. What I didn't trust was what was trying to influence him and hurt him. I didn't just want to leave this in the dark, and I didn't want us to hit a wall with this. That could potentially hurt Matthew more or make him do something even more odd. I grimaced before standing up, helping Matthew up. Come on, let's head to bed, and I'll stop it here for today. I know it's pretty boring because nothing happened, but hey, I think we're gonna end this up pretty soon, and then we'll finish up Diana and then Secret End, and then we'll be done. Oh man, it's good to be back, I guess. I know I sound pretty bleh, but I've just been feeling kind of unenthusiastic recently about stuff, but also excited about other things, but I don't know. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!